Good evening, sir, and good evening to all the participants present in this session. This is Anika Sharma, your moderator for today's session, and I welcome you all to this workshop on sports law on day first. And today we have with us Mr. Nishant Sheokand, who is Assistant Dean and Assistant Director IFIM Law School and an advisor for global sports policy review. He is an international sports lawyer and has been advising various second second division B football clubs in Spain. He has an experience in teaching at various reputed law schools like National Law University, OP Jindal Global University, and after having received his LLM in the year 2018 and BLLB honors from OP Jindal, he pursued his second master's in sports management and legal skills from Instituto Superior de Derecho by Economia and Football Club Barcelona, Spain, where he received Economist and Jurist magazine Diffusion Juridica scholarship and finished top of his class. He is an advisor for Global Sports Policy Review, which is a leading sports law e-journal in India. He was admitted to the Delhi Bar Council in August 2016 and was an in-house counsel for Alltech Global Noida UP between the year July 2016 and 2017, assisting them with their entry and expansion in the Indian market. Along with this academic achievements, Mr. Sheokand was also awarded with Vice Chancellor's Outstanding Contribution Award and Ashwin Maharaj Best Footballer Award in 2016. He had the opportunity to be part of the founding team of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Law University, Sonipat, Haryana, and he worked as a legal advisor to the Vice Chancellor. He was responsible for the institution building and received an award for excellence and institution building in the year 2020. He has been a professional cricketer and football player. He has taken up a pen instead of cleats and writes about emerging issues on sports law, euthanasia, and evidence law. His work on euthanasia has been published in the book edited by Justice Deepak Mishra in 2019. He is very passionate about making a career in sports law and is currently authoring a book on intersectionality of sports law and gender issues. And here we have Sir to guide us on the topic of sports law. And now I would like Sir to take over and begin with the book.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anika, for the introduction. Am I audible to you guys? Anika, am I audible? Or do I have to go louder? Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, so I'm getting few replies in the chat box. So that's
Sorry,
fantastic.
sir, but you're not audible.
Not audible. So yeah, but I'm getting different. Uh, yeah, so there are so many students who are saying that I'm audible to them. So
Okay, sir.
I'll just try and raise my voice a little, and maybe from there we can go ahead. So I'll just quickly lay down, what we are going to do today, and so that everybody who is participating today will have some idea, what we are going to cover and today and tomorrow. So, as you know, that I'm teaching at IFM Law School, Bangalore. So I'm taking a course on sports law here as well. So I'm going to do the similar thing I'm doing here at IFM, which is I'm going to give you the opportunity, the participants, to design the course for tomorrow. Although I have few case studies in mind, but still I would like you guys to, let's say, give me a few suggestions what you guys want to study or what you guys want me to cover tomorrow, so that I am covering the kind of topics you guys are interested in. I am, let's say, teaching you guys what you guys want to be taught, and also I'm, let's say, covering those key areas which, let's say, majority of the participants are interested in. If that makes sense, you have 1 hour to, let's say, go online, side by side listen to me and also research about the kind of topic, let's say, you want me to cover tomorrow. And as far as today is concerned, what we are going to do is, before starting with the course, I'll just give you a quick introduction to sports law, or what is even a sport. First we have to determine what is a sport, and then from there we can maybe sort of pick it up, what is sports law. And from there we can delve into, let's say, few important aspects of sports law. For example, contract law. For example, Lionel Messi's issue. I want you to cover Lionel Messi's case study, which is, I think, like, is pretty recent, and also full of, let's say, few legal concerns when it comes to sports law and the contractual law, which is related to sports law. So today, primarily, we are going to cover Lionel Messi's case, introduction to sports law as well, and afterwards, I'll just quickly tell you and cover the topic, which is change and transitional management in sports. If that's okay, and everybody is, let's say, with me here, so I would like to just quickly start from here. Yeah, so just throughout the session, let's say it is for 60 minutes, I'll just require the help from all of you. Whenever, let's say, I'm asking a question, or whenever I'm asking for a clarification, just keep posting in the chat box, and so that I know, you guys are paying attention to me, and I'm not putting you to sleep, or you're not getting bored in whatever I'm trying to teach you guys here. So yeah, perfect. Moving on. So whenever we talk about sports law, the first and foremost question, every, let's say, a prospective lawyer, or every lawyer, what they should understand is, what is a sport. In general senses, we know, let's say, cricket, football, basketball, volleyball, all these are sports, but we never think about, let's say, what makes it a sport, or let's say how or when a physical activity qualifies to become a sport. Because not every physical activity can be considered as a sport, or not every game we are playing can qualify as a sport. So we have to understand, or let's say lay down a general definition of sport. What is a sport? So let me tell you, there is not a single universally accepted definition for sport. So sport is like religion, as it is followed. Let's say, for example, cricket in India, it is followed religiously, and same way the definition is also on the same lines with the religion. You cannot define it. It is really, really difficult to define what is a sport. So, for example, let's try and build upon a definition for what is sport, and from there we can take it forward. So, for example, if someone wants to give me a definition, they can always post it in the chat box. But I'll try and take it up with those criterias. So keep posting the criterias, according to you, which are really important for the definition of sports. For example, it should be a physical activity, or example, it requires skill, or for example, it should be a team sport, or for example, a game is always a sport, or let's say all the sports are games. Whatever you think, just keep posting it in the chat box, and from there maybe we'll try and, let's say, come up with a universally accepted the definition of sport. And maybe we can always publish it online, saying, from this particular course, all the participants along with me were able to lay down a definition, a substantial contribution to the field of sports, that this is the definition, and this should be accepted universally. So just keep posting on, what do you think could be the key areas or the key criteria to lay down a particular definition of sport. So like Chetanshi has posted, any physical activity. So one, I totally agree with you, a physical activity which requires skill and is relevant to national and international level. Okay, so physical exertion. Next is physical exertion. So, what do you mean by physical exertion? For example, when you are playing chess, when you are moving key components, when you are using skill, when you are applying your mind, when you are playing against an opponent, do you think the chess has certain level of physical exertion which would, let's say, qualify chess as a game and then qualify it as a sport? Are there the criterias you think which are very important and crucial for chess to become a sport? So could you, let's say, when people are saying physical exertion, competition, skill, athletic activity, endurance, regulated body, or let's say, for example, referees. So when we talk about sport, a sport is a combination of all. A definition, try to think on the lines, you know where, for example, a certain criteria is making a particular sport to qualify as a sport, but not the other way around. For example, physical exertion or a mental skill required. Now here I'll take an example. Is everybody aware about Formula 1 racing, or what is it about? So let me just quickly tell you. Formula 1 racing is car racing competition where so many teams come together. They put two drivers per team, and then they compete for a certain prize money. They go throughout the world, across the world, and then they compete in different circuits, different Formula 1 races. So what happened was, I think back in 2013, very beautiful F1 circuit was developed and established in India. It was in Uttar Pradesh. The government of Uttar Pradesh developed it for Formula 1 F1 racing. So initially, what happened was the government of Uttar Pradesh talked to the organizers of F1 racing, and then they agreed upon, that this is the F1 racing falls under the ambit of sports, and there won't be any, let's say, the high taxes levied on the particular race being conducted in India. And so that the kind of revenues F1 generate is very huge, so they'll be able to, let's say, take away all the revenues. So what happened was, after the race was conducted and everything, then again UP government decided to levy taxes on the basis, and giving a certain, let's say, explanation for their reasons were that they said the Formula 1 racing is not a sport. It is just an entertainment. It is not a, let's say, a skill based activity which qualifies as a sport. So it does not qualify as a sport, so it won't fall under the ambit of sport. And that is why we are going to levy the kind of taxes we levy on entertainment, for example movies, or for example any of the activities happening for fun or for the entertainment. So for example, I don't remember the kind of taxes which were levied. For example, from 10% it was raised to 40%, and the kind of revenue I think the F1 was generating was very minimal. So what happened was, F1 decided not to conduct any more races in India, and then they withdrew the competition from India. So now the issue here is, which all of us have to determine, whether F1 racing is a sport or not, whether it qualifies as a skill based activity, skill based game, or it is just, for example, it is just for fun and there is no skill required. So now let me just give you one particular explanation given by Uttar Pradesh government, which was, they said, in order to in order to win F1 race, a driver does not have to be skilled. All he has to do is, he has to be in the best kind of technology, in the best kind of car, and they will win the particular race. So they basically said, whatever driving you are doing, if you'll take any other driver, then also that particular car is going to win, because the car is the best and not the driver. So there is no skill of the driver involved. Even if, let's say, he's cutting all the particular, let's say, he's taking all the turns at the right marks, he's pushing the brakes on the right moment, he's accelerating on the right moment, and whether he's actually applying his skill, whether there is strategy involved in that particular race or not. They just simply said, there is no skill required. Only if you are in the best car you are going to win, otherwise you are not going to win. So now it's up to us whether to ascertain whether F1 qualifies as sport or not. So if you think, and there is a criteria, for example, now just imagine there is a line in between. Here, the any sport or any game would be there which does not have skill, and here all the sports would fall. So now what do you think, whether F1 is a skill based activity or it is just for fun? So there are so many answers in the chat box. Everybody is saying that play is energetic way, mentally attractive, and Jehan is saying that it is definitely and without a doubt a skill-based game. So you have to, whenever let's say you are saying that it is a skill-based game, now you have to think of other criterias. For example, the F1 race for 2021, which was in Bahrain, the car of Red Bull was ascertained as the fastest, and the car of, let's say, the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton, who has been winning all the, I think, for the last 7 times, he has been the winner of F1 race. He managed to beat Verstappen, who represents Red Bull. Red Bull, who has the fastest car, but Lewis Hamilton managed to beat that particular car. Why? Because there was a moment in during the race. What happened was, so there are different breaks. So when there was the opportunity to take a break, the Mercedes F1 team, they applied the particular strategy and they took an early break than the Verstappen, so that when again there come an opportunity to again change those tires, so they'll be ahead of Verstappen, even though let's say the car is the fastest, Verstappen's car is fastest, but still they'll be ahead. They were using a certain strategy. It all happened. It was the, I think, the last lap of the race where there came an opportunity of Verstappen overtaking Hamilton, because obviously his car is the fastest. So he managed to overtake Lewis Hamilton, but he had to go around him and out of the bounds and out of the track. So what happened was, again, it was against the rules. And why he, let's say, went out of the track? Reason being, it was all because of the skills of Lewis Hamilton. He drove in such a way, he did not give him a particular, let's say, the space or leeway, or the kind of room required to overtake him. So Verstappen obviously had to go out, and then he managed to overtake him, but then according to the rules, he again had to give him side, and and at the end, Lewis Hamilton won the particular race. So again, coming back to what is a sport, or what qualifies a certain thing to be a sport. So there are few essential, or very important criterias whenever we are talking about a certain game to be a sport, which is a certain amount of skill is required in that particular game which is there. Then you have to see whether a certain physical activity is there or not. It does not have to be substantial. As even if in chess you are moving your particular pawns, then also it qualifies as a physical activity. Then you have to see whether, let's say, you are competing against anybody, or whether, let's say, it is not a competition, whether there are rules and regulations for that particular game or not, whether there is a governing body over it or not, competitiveness, ethics of the game, regulatory body, international, let's say, for example, in Olympics, International Olympic Committee. For football, there is FIFA. For example, in cricket, there is ICC. In India, there is BCCI. So all these criterias, when they come together, a certain thing can qualify as a skill-based game, and then further it can qualify as a sport if it fulfills all these criteria. So when it is fulfilling all these criterias, it is a sport. Then the legal implications comes into play. For example, F1, the kind of taxes were levied because they considered it not to be a sport, so they considered it under the taxation for entertainment and not for sport. If it would have been sport, they would have earned more. F1 would have earned more. Now think of from India's perspective. India lost so much of revenue just because their interpretation of a certain game, not a sport according to India. So their interpretation of a certain game led to them declaring that we are going to levy tax. And what happened, or what was the end result of it? Now F1 is a billion-dollar industry where the hosts, they end up earning a lot. The companies end up investing a lot in that particular circuit. in and around that circuit and not just the circuit. So just look at the kind of revenue loss is there for, let's say, a country like India and a state like Uttar Pradesh. So moving on and building upon, let's say, these certain few, let's say, introduction to sports, or let's say a definition of what a sport is. So do one thing, think about it, and we will take up these certain definitions at the end of this particular session, or let's say at the end of this particular certificate course, which is tomorrow. Maybe we'll try to ascertain which is the best definition, and maybe we can try and publish it online, or let's say in my upcoming book. Maybe I'll be able to include your definition in my upcoming book, which is also about sports, introduction to sports and gender issues. So obviously I'll be talking about what a sport is. So if, let's say, after ascertaining your uh, particular definition, and it includes all the criterias, and it is a blanket definition, blanket definition means it applies to everything, maybe we will include it in the book. If that makes sense, perfect. Just think about it and we can come back to it tomorrow. So moving on from what a sport, and then what qualifies as a sport, what is a sport, and then the legal implications to it, I'll talk about what is sports law now. So, a general conception is, or let's say a general mindset when we talk about sports law is, people end up thinking that sports law is also one of the fields of law which is similar to other fields of law. For example, criminal law, it is a developed field of law in India or all over the world, or let's say civil laws, or let's say corporate laws. But when we talk about sports law, it is a very niche field, and it is not at all similar to other kinds of field. Why? Because it is not a separate field in itself. It is a combination of all the laws which are required to solve the real world problems. So it is not that, let's say, for example, you're a sports enthusiast, you'll be able to deal with the problems. Obviously, you'll be able to deal with the problems, but not just because, let's say, you know about a particular sport, or let's say you are interested in sports. To understand sports, and to, let's say, to become a sports lawyer, you have to understand one thing, that it is a combination of, like, most of the laws. For example, let's say in terms of football, whenever a player has to play for a particular club, they'll have to get into contract. They'll have to get into a particular contract. So contract law comes into play. Yeah, exactly, Esteban, you are correct. Contract law, arbitration, mediation, tort law comes into play, criminal law also comes into play, intellectual property right comes into play, financial laws come into play, employment laws comes into play, and also the nationality laws comes into play, because all the time all the football players are going from one country to another, all the sports players are going from one country to another, then these laws comes into place. For example, there are so many issues related to doping. There are so many issues related to, let's say, whenever criminal organizations are trying to funnel money through different sporting organizations. So they are trying to sort of convert their black money into white money through the sporting organizations, because sporting organizations have a huge, let's say, potential of filtering money or funneling money and converting black money into white money. Yeah, again, nationality law due to change in player countries. For example, Diego Costa from Brazil to Spain. For example, Wilfried Zaha. He started playing for England, and then he converted to other nationalities. So there are so many, let's say, laws which are required for you to become a sports lawyer. So don't worry, it is not like you will have to study all the laws to become a sports lawyer. It is not like that. So just think of it as this: when you are going to a particular law school, you are studying all the general subjects, and then you are required to become a certain kind of lawyer. So now just think, you are doing the same thing in sports law, you are entering the field of sports law. Now you'll be required to become a certain kind of a sports lawyer. So it is same as becoming criminal lawyer, becoming civil lawyer, but under sports law also you will be required to, let's say, zero down on few areas which kind of a lawyer you want to become. Let's say, for example, you want to go into litigation, or let's say you want to start your own law firm, or let's say you want to get into a particular, let's say, sporting agency or sporting organization. For example, you want to represent FIFA, or let's say, for example, you want to represent fifth pro. Fifth pro is organizations which represents all the football players around the world. So it depends, which kind of lawyer you want to become, and it also depends, again, which country you are working at and which area of particular, let's say, sports you are working in. Again, I'll take, let's say, let's get into a particular case study, and maybe from there you'll be able to understand the intricacies of sports law, and let's say you'll be able to understand, for example, contract law. So I'm sure that you guys must have heard about the controversy related to Lionel Messi. So Lionel Messi is a world-renowned football player. He's one of the best football players in the world, and if not the best, I'm sure there are people who won't agree with me, and they'll be like, "Yeah, he's the greatest of all time." So I don't agree with you. For me, Messi is the second best player in the world, but I am here for you to change my mind about it. So for me, it is always Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, Jehan, I totally agree with you. And I think, let's say, a few brownie points to you just for posting that Cristiano Ronaldo is the best player in the world. So, yeah, we'll come back to this particular topic later on, because, this is a kind of a topic which has been going on for more than 10 years, and no one has been able to ascertain who is the best player in the world. So let's just not get into this controversial topic and moving on. So Lionel Messi is So Lionel Messi, when we are talking about Lionel Messi, is, he's the kind of a player who's not just a player, but he has become a brand, a worldwide brand. Everything sells whenever you puts his name on anything. If you puts his name on, let's say, particular jacket or a particular jersey or a particular shoe or any kind of a product, people are going to buy. For example, I'll take an Indian example here. So Tata was able to include his son's name on a car, and that car sold like anything. They were able to sell so many Tata Tiagos just because, they were able to include Lionel Messi into it and his son's name into it. So that is, I think, like, Indians would understand this. When we talk about the cars of Tata, yeah, there is not much credibility attached to them. At least for me, there is not much credibility attached to it. But still, I see so many Tata Tiagos around just because, their marketing strategy was pretty good and Lionel Messi's name was attached to it. So similarly, for Barcelona, for Football Club Barcelona or Barcelona, I'm going to just say Barcelona. Lionel Messi is a very, let's say, important part and integral part of the club. Lionel Messi is the kind of player, who has played throughout his life for a single club. He has been a single club man or single club football player. Since his childhood, he has been playing for Football Club Barcelona, and he is pretty loyal to Football Club Barcelona. He earns or he generates not just, let's say, the positive results on the football field, but also beyond the football field. For example, the kind of sponsorship Barcelona gets because of Messi, or let's say, for example, if we are talking in terms of revenue, the kind of revenue Barcelona generates just because Lionel Messi plays for him, and it has a huge impact. Why? For example, Cristiano Ronaldo. So Cristiano Ronaldo, everybody like was under a shock or received a shock when, he decided to move to football club Juventus from Real Madrid, and the kind of shift we saw in the viewership from La Liga to Serie A, the kind of sponsorship deals Juventus was able to generate just because Cristiano Ronaldo joined Football Club Juventus, the kind of revenue they were able to generate from the sale of their shirts, from the sale of their TV rights, from like everything, the kind of followers they get on social media platforms, and not just Football Club Juventus, Syria altogether. Everybody has started watching Syria. At least in India, there has been a great shift just because a certain player, a single player, decided to move from a certain league to another. So similarly, Lionel Messi also has that kind of impact on Football Club Barcelona. So back in 2017, I guess, I'm not sure with the years. So please ignore if I'm getting the years wrong. In 2017, Lionel Messi in 2017, Lionel Messi signed a contract extension with Football Club Barcelona. And just to sign that particular extension, I think he was paid 60 million euros or slash dollars just to put pen to the paper. So that is the kind of, let's say, importance Lionel Messi has for Football Club Barcelona. That, just to sign a particular contract, they're giving him 60 million euros slash dollars. And also he has few clause in this particular contract. So this is where things get interesting in sports law, or this is where things get interesting when we talk about contract law or and sports law, or let's say sports law contracts, because sports law contracts are not like every other contract or every other general contract. There are so many specific clauses which are attached to footballing contracts, and that's why it gets very important for us lawyers to understand the consequences of such clauses, and then sort of get, let's say for example, you are representing any football player, then sort of get into a particular contract. So this way, I think Lionel Messi's lawyer was or is pretty smart. He was able to insert few clauses in his particular contract, which had or still have very huge implications on Football Club Barcelona and also Lionel Messi's career. So before starting with this particular contract of Lionel Messi, I just wanted to talk about, let's say, few clauses in sporting contracts, in footballing contracts. So in when we talk about Spain in particular, so in Spain it is necessary or it is required by law or the regulations to insert a buyout clause, a particular buyout clause in footballing contracts. So I'm going to just post it in the group also, so that you guys are able to, let's say, track those particular changes or the clauses, name of the clauses. So one is buyout clause. Okay, so now I'll just quickly explain what a buyout clause is. So generally, it is understood as, whenever a certain new club wants to buy a certain player from a particular club, that club is coming and paying his or her particular buyout clause. But that is not the scenario. Please remove that particular understanding from your minds. That is not what a buyout clause is. So when we talk about a buyout clause simply says, let's say for example, Lionel Messi wants to get out of his particular contract, or let's say he wants to breach his contract during the, let's say, the time period or time frame of that particular contract. Then in that particular scenario, for the breach of that particular contract or the buyout of that particular contract, Lionel Messi would have to pay a certain amount, pre-decided amount, to Football Club Barcelona. It is Lionel Messi who is paying that amount and not the new club. So generally, or general conception is that new club pays it. So it is correct. The new club comes in, they will give the money to Lionel Messi, and then Lionel Messi is going to pay that fee to La Liga, not to Football Club Barcelona. So now Lionel Messi will give that money to La Liga, and from La Liga, that money will go to Football Club Barcelona. So that is how that particular buyout clause works. So it is not like that new club is coming in and then paying it to Football Club Barcelona. It is Lionel Messi who is giving money to La Liga, La Liga to Football Club Barcelona. Why new club is paying? Because they want to buy Lionel Messi and they are asking Lionel Messi to breach the contract. So that is why the new club is paying, because obviously Lionel Messi is not going to pay from his own pocket to move to another club. Although few players have done it in the past, but not everybody does it. So, for example, Ender Herrera, when he wanted to move to Manchester United, he ended up paying 5 million from his own pocket because he desperately wanted to move to Manchester United. But Manchester United was not ready to pay, I think, more than 20 or 25 million, and so the rest of amount was paid by Ender Herrera. So now coming back to buyout clause again, the remove that general conception and understand the intricacies behind the buyout clause. It is the player who is paying to the particular, let's say, sporting organization, which is La Liga in this particular case, and La Liga is going to pay to Football Club Barcelona. So that is how it is done when it comes to buyout clauses. So from here, while I was talking about it, I started talking about the transfer of a particular player. So here I also wanted to clarify one thing. So generally, as football fans, we end up saying that a particular player is transferred from a particular club to another club. Let's say a player A is moving or is being transferred from a particular club, for example, Real Madrid to Manchester United. So we end up saying that that particular player is transferred, or let's say Manchester United bought player A from Real Madrid. So now question is, can you buy a player? Can you, let's say, is a player, a particular player or a particular football player property of a particular club when he or she decides to join a particular club? No, they are not. So it is also a general misconception which is there. So whenever a certain player is going from a certain club to another club, it is their registration in with that particular league which is being transferred. For example, again I'll talk about Lionel Messi so that it is easy to understand. For example, Lionel Messi is registered with La Liga. When he decides to move, for example, to Manchester United or Manchester City, his registration from La Liga will be transferred to the registration to FA, Footballing Association of England. That's it. And then he will get into contract with Manchester United or whichever club he decides to, let's say, join. So it is their registration of that particular club. So registration basically is that to play in a particular league, they have to be registered with that particular association. So for example, in to play in La Liga, the player have to be registered. Their name would be registered. This player is a professional and he will going to play in this particular league. So their registration is transferred from one association to another association. So it is not about, for example, the player is being bought by one club to another. It is never like this. So it is the transfer of the registration to one league to another. That's it, and not, let's say, a club is buying a particular club or a particular league is buying a particular player. It is never like that. It is the transfer of the registration. So now moving on, I just wanted to clarify this particular point or this misconception. So moving on, there are few other clauses as well, which are really important when we talk about contracts. I'm just taking an example. Such clauses are there, different clauses are there with all the sports. So the clauses are sports specific because, so I'm just going to talk about football today. So the other clause which I wanted to talk about is sell on clause. Sell on clause. So I'll again post it on the group, which is second, which is sell on clause. So when we are talking about sell on clause, with sell on clause, there are not many misconceptions. But what happens is the certain parties are able to generate, let's say, undue advantage because of the wordings of a certain clause. I'll tell you why. For example, let's say there is a very young player A from Barcelona Academy. So Barcelona has a very young, for example, 16-year-old player A. That player wants to move from Football Club Barcelona, and that player, for example, is going to become next Lionel Messi. So now Barcelona would not want to lose such a player, let's say, who is going to generate revenues in the future. But currently, he cannot play in the team, the main team of Football Club Barcelona, because there are so many players. So that player wants to move on. So he wants to, let's say, go and play for any other club. So now, what Football Club Barcelona would do is, being smart or having smart lawyers, they'll include sell-on clause. So sell-on clause would say basically, let's say, in case of a future transfer, for example, that particular player A is now being sold to Manchester United by Barcelona. So in case of a future sale, let's say in case of a future transfer, so we are going to take it as a future transfer. So for future transfer, if there is a future transfer and Manchester United, for example, earns 50 million out of it, so 10% or 12%, whatever they decide upon, that percent of that particular 50% would go to Football Club Barcelona also, in case Manchester United further sells or further transfers that particular player. So now what happens is, now look at the wordings of the particular clause. Let's, for example, if player A is transferred in future to any other club by Manchester United, is transferred to any other club by Manchester United, then Football Club Barcelona would earn 10% of that particular transfer amount. So now what we are talking about is transfer. So transfer can include two scenarios. See, if you are a Barcelona's lawyer, you'll obviously, let's say, articulate it in a way which says transfer and not a sell of the player or the sale of the player. Why? Because transfer can include loan cases also. So, for example, someone wants a player from Manchester United and they want to loan player A, and they are giving, for example, 5 million to Manchester United just to loan that particular player. Then out of 5 million also, Barcelona would be entitled for that 10%. But in a scenario, for example, where they would have articulated in a way which says sale and not transfer. So in that particular scenario, you have restricted it to the sale of the particular player and not the loan of that particular player. So here, let's say, while articulating or while framing the particular clause, you have to be very smart as a lawyer, because it is the job of the lawyer to draft such clauses and think of future scenarios where you are able to generate revenue for your particular party or a particular club, and also there are no issues, or let's say there is no room for further interpretation of a particular clause. So it is all about, I hope, yeah, the spelling is wrong. I wanted to say interpretation. So yeah, that is the scenario. So now coming back to the case of Lionel Messi, or the issue of Lionel Messi. So as we know, Lionel Messi signed a particular contract in 2017, for which he got 60 million euros or dollars, whatever it is. And we have established that he is very important for Football Club Barcelona, and he generates lots of revenues for Football Club Barcelona. So now let's talk about the issue. So the lawyer of Football Club Barcelona and also the regulations of Spain, or La Liga, stipulates that there must be a buyout clause. So buyout clause for Lionel Messi is for 700 million euros, or I don't know about whether it's euros or dollars, just assume 700 million, whatever the currency, it still is very huge amount. If you convert it into rupees, it is more than 1000 crores. Yeah, it is more than 1000 crores. Just imagine, a player who is more than 30 years old, and still if someone has to buy out his particular contract, I'll come back to you, Swayam, in this particular case. If someone has to come, let's say, come and buy out Lionel Messi in this particular scenario, that particular club would have to pay 700 million for Lionel Messi to Football Club Barcelona. That is his buyout clause. What Lionel Messi's lawyer was able to do and insert a particular clause saying that in case Lionel Messi wants to leave for free, because the lawyer of Lionel Messi was able to visualize, because now just imagine a player is not Lionel Messi and someone else. For example, let's take the case of Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney, somewhere around 33 or 32, 33, he left Manchester United because he was not able to play at that particular level, at the level of Manchester United, or let's say, at the top level. which he was required to. So he moved to a different club, a smaller club, and from there, he ended up retiring after a few years. It happens in all the sports. For example, MS Dhoni, he also had to retire. One, he was not getting opportunities in the Indian team, and also his game was diminishing. Although we do, as let's say an Indian or a cricket fan, I don't want to agree to this particular statement that MS Dhoni's game was diminishing, but it was. So he basically had to retire. Similarly, in football also, what happens is, after a certain age, your game or a game of a particular or the performance of a particular player starts diminishing. Now apply that particular statement to Lionel Messi. He is an aging player who is, let's say, who was at the peak of his game, but is started to diminish, or his game has started to diminish. Although most of you won't agree with me, but if you, let's say, compare him to his previous years, his game is started to diminish. So that in that particular scenario, for example, if you are Manchester City, would you pay 700 million for an aging guy or not? The logical conclusion is that you won't pay 700 million, although you will pay 100 million, 200 million, because you will be able to generate those sort of revenues, for example in the case of Ronaldo. But you won't pay 700 million. So obviously the lawyer of Lionel Messi knew this, or knows this. So what he did was, in case Lionel Messi is not happy with the vision or the kind of projects Football Club Barcelona has, he was able to insert a particular clause, which I like to say or call it as a, I'll just name it, get out of the jail free card. So the lawyer was able to insert this particular clause, get out of the jail free card. This particular clause says that, at the end of every season, every footballing season, on or before 10th June, if Lionel Messi intimates Football Club Barcelona that he wants to leave, then Lionel Messi can leave for free. Yeah, you heard it right. Lionel Messi could leave for free. So that is the scenario. That is the get out of the jail free card. On one hand, Lionel Messi, if wants to leave during the, let's say, the particular time frame of the contract, then a certain club would have to pay 700 million. On the other hand, the get out of the jail free card clause allows, so usually there is not a name for all the clause. It is just for our reference that we name the particular clauses, and then we this is sort of, Ashutosh has this particular name question ki what is the actual name of that clause. So you can name it anything. I have named it get out of the jail free card. Usually there are pointers for the contracts or the clauses. So I like to call it get out of jail free card, and for the reference of this particular presentation, or that, let's say, for this particular course. So now we have 700 million on one side, buyout clause, and we have free Lionel Messi, let's say a player top two in the world, who not only generates wins for Football Club Barcelona, but he also generates revenue. So now he can leave Football Club Barcelona for free if he intimates Football Club Barcelona on or before 10th June of every season. So that is the scenario. If on or before 10th June, if he intimates Football Club Barcelona, he can leave for free. No, Divyansh, he won't be a free agent after that clause. Free agent is a different thing. Free agent is the case scenario where you don't have a contract. But this thing, this get out of the jail free card, is during the continuation of the contract. For example, the contract is for 5 years. For example, the contract is till 2021, and Lionel Messi wanted to leave after the season of the COVID to 1920 season. So Lionel Messi wanted to leave. I'll get back to it. So now the controversy arises is, last year everybody was affected by COVID. Not even just a football league, not even just a country, whole world went into a lockdown. We were not allowed to go out of our houses just for the essentials. And football obviously did not fall into the essentials. So what happened was, the leagues, footballing leagues all over the world, they were stopped during the lockdown and also corona, because it was spreading everywhere. But then it restarted after a few months, and then the season ended. Instead of ending in, let's say, somewhere around May or June, the season ended in August. I think it was 21st August. Just forgive me if I get the, let's say, the dates wrong, but the month is correct. So I'll again reiterate so that you have that clarity. On one hand, there is a buyout clause which says 700 million. During the contract, someone wants to buy, they can buy Lionel Messi for 700 million. On the other hand, there is a contract, there is a clause which is get out of the jail free card. It is also during the duration of the contract, which says if Lionel Messi at the end of the season, when the season for that particular year has ended, he intimates Barcelona on or before 10th June, then he can leave for free. If he intimates after that he cannot leave for free, then the clubs would have to pay 700 million. So this is the scenario. So what happened was, in a normal scenario, Lionel Messi would be able to leave if he intimates. But according to, or because of Corona, the season ended pretty late. It ended in August. So now Messi assumed that the season has ended late because of Corona and not because of his own fault. And also he was not happy with way Barcelona performed in that particular season. They end up losing. I think they end up losing 8-2 to Football Club Bayern, and it is very humiliating for a club like Football Club Barcelona to lose at like with such a margin, even that too in a Champions League match. So Lionel Messi was obviously not happy. They were trophyless in that particular season. So Messi intimated Football Club Barcelona that now he wants to trigger this particular clause. Yeah, exactly, Ashutosh. They got humiliated. I am assuming that you are not a Barcelona fan. So what happened was Lionel Messi intimated Football Club Barcelona in August after the season ended that now he wants to leave and he wants to join a certain club. So please, let's say, release him from the particular contract, or let's say let him leave for free. He intimated Football Club Barcelona. Now, obviously, Football Club Barcelona won't be happy with it because there is a substantial loss of revenue for Football Club Barcelona. Minimum 700 million, because if someone wants to buy a Lionel Messi, Barcelona obviously would expect them to pay 700 million. So obviously, in that particular scenario, Barcelona was not at all happy about it. So what they did was they said, "Ki no, boss, you cannot leave for free because your clause says or stipulates that you can only intimate us before or 10th, on or before 10th June, and not in August." And again, it is not our fault that COVID hit and the season ended late. So now it became a controversy. One party is saying something and the other party is saying something. Now, let's say, for example, you are the lawyers of particular two parties. Let's say, for example, if we have to pick someone from the participants, I'm going to cold call on people, or should I just, let's say, talk to people who have been replying to my messages? So let's say, maybe I think Ashutosh can represent Football Club Barcelona because he loves Football Club Barcelona, and maybe Jehan. So Jehan, you can represent Lionel Messi. So what you have to do is you can switch on your mic also, just these two people, or you can write in the particular chat box also. What you have to do is, I'll tell you. So now you have two clauses. One party is saying something which is that, where, let's say, if Manchester City comes in and wants to take or offer Lionel Messi a contract, they will have to pay 700 million to Barcelona. That this is what Barcelona is saying. And on the other hand, Lionel Messi is saying, I am allowed to leave for free because this is the end of the season. Doesn't matter the date, because it has ended late because of corona, external intervention, and it is not his fault. So this is the scenario. Jehan is representing Messi, and Ashutosh being a Football Club Barcelona fan, and he is representing Football Club Barcelona. So now you have to put forward your arguments. In, let's say, assuming the case is in front of court of arbitration of sports, which is short form is CAS. I'm sure you must have heard about CAS. So it is in front of CAS, and CAS and the judges of this particular CAS are all the participants of this particular certificate course. So now just I think like you should switch on your mics and just put forward your arguments. So first I would like to hear from Ashutosh and then Jehan. And remember one thing, that there are no right and there are no wrong answers. It is all about the interpretation of these clauses, and it is also about, let's say, look at the purpose of these clauses, or literally interpret, look at the interpretations, and then try to put forward your arguments. Yes, over to
Hello.
you, Ashutosh.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Ashutosh, you are audible.
So, since I'm representing Barcelona, I would like to state that my party had clearly inserted a contract that Mr. Lionel, concerned person, Mr. Lionel Messi, can only leave for free if he informed us on or before 10th of June, 10th of June of every year. But since he informed us now in August, it is not, he cannot leave for free, because that particular period of limitation of that contract of that clause has expired.
So you are saying they cannot leave because the time frame or the deadline has
Yes, yes,
passed.
Ex- passed.
And
Deadline has passed.
we are going to take the date as the date, and that's it. Like, we are going to consider 10th June as the date, which is the deadline. That's it.
Okay, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. So as the opposite party, which is Football Club Barcelona, has said that the deadline day has passed, and we are going to take that date as you mentioned, 10 June, as you said, every year, which is the fixed date. But now, due to, I mean, if we look at it in the clerical sense, COVID has been nothing but it's been an unforeseen activity. COVID has been an unforeseen activity, which has, it's affected everybody. And in this case, it's affected the Football League, it's affected everybody. So as Lionel Messi's lawyer, I would say that because of an unforeseen activity, he does have the right, because the season has been extended. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Season has not been extended, but the season has finished at a different date. So Lionel Messi, taking 21st August as the date where the league ended, he will officially be understanding of the fact that the league has ended late. So he does have the right. So 21st June, so 10 June has basically, 21st August has become 10 June for him, because the league is finished at that time. And as his lawyer, if he wants to leave, definitely, I think he has the right to.
So Ashutosh, do you have anything to add to it, or a counter to this particular argument?
Not as such, but I would like to say that league finished on before league finished before 21st of August itself. So he has informed us late.
So, like, pardon my, let's say, the spellings. Thus, I am putting forward the arguments.
Yeah, that's okay.
Jehan,
That's okay.
yeah, Jehan. So, don't you think the kind of argument you are making, same argument also applies from the side of Football Club Barcelona? They can also argue that, the league was extended and then it ended in August because of the unforeseen external reasons, or the external, let's say, whatever happened, and it was out of their hands also. So the similar argument applies to them also, and it was not their fault that league ended late. So they are not going to suffer the loss of minimum 700 million. And when I say minimum 700 million, is because it is 700 million plus the kind of revenue Messi generates, the kind of revenue Messi generates through sponsorships, through
Can,
deals, through TRP, through the kind of TV rights football Barcelona generates.
can we call those incentives? 700 million plus incentives?
Yeah, we can call
That incentives. Okay.
So the similar argument also applies from the Football
Yeah.
Club Barcelona side.
That's
Now
a fair argument.
Now, being Messi's a lawyer, what would you say, or like what would be the other argument?
Uh, well, hmm.
So, can I know, let's say, whether you are a lawyer or you are studying, or like which year are you in?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I've completed my LLB in 2019.
Okay, okay. So let's say whenever we have to interpret a particular clause, how do we interpret, or let's say we have to, for example, you are interpreting the constitution. The framers of the constitution are not alive today, right? They framed it like 50, 60 years back, and whatever they were thinking, we cannot get into their minds and assume, this is what they wanted to think, or this is what they meant by this particular clause. So what we do as lawyers is we try to interpret a particular clause. We try to look at the purpose of that particular clause, right?
True.
So now think about this particular clause, which is get out of the jail free card. What is your purpose being the lawyer of Lionel Messi of including this particular clause in the contract?
So that my client can get out free.
Exactly. So now look at the wordings of the clause, which says on or before 10th June.
True.
At the end of the season, he would be allowed to leave for free. So now look at the purpose of this particular clause, which is to allow Lionel Messi leave for free. Second is at the end of the season, if he intimates Barcelona on a particular date or before that particular date. So that date does not have any consequences or any, let's say, any relevance. It is just that, a particular deadline is given so that you have a particular deadline in your mind. It is just as a particular deadline to fill out an application. For example, you have to appear for LSATs and date is 20th March or let's say 30th April, because otherwise it would create uncertainty. Now, coming back to the point, what we have to, or what you could argue is, or what let's say Lionel Messi's lawyer could argue is, he can say, see, purpose of this clause was to allow Lionel Messi to leave for free at the end of the season. It does not matter when the season is ending. What matters is that one season is ending, and second, Lionel Messi intimates Football Club Barcelona on a particular date, so that Barcelona can also make the necessary arrangement and they can also look for replacement, and also the kind of, let's say, whatever formalities which happen has to be done can be done. So the purpose is to allow Lionel Messi to leave for free, and purpose is not to, let's say, restrict him and not to allow him for free at the end of the season. When did he ask to leave for free? At the end of the season. Did he intimate Football Club Barcelona? Yes, he intimated Football Club Barcelona. Just because there was an external intervention, he was not able to intimate Barcelona on a particular date. So I think, like, if this particular case would have gone to the court, I think that is my interpretation. But you can always, let's say, argue from the behalf of Barcelona also. How? If you're, let's say, let's say Football Club Barcelona's lawyer, you could argue that, whenever justice has been done, whenever, let's say, a case is in front of the court and a particular judge has to give out the particular justice, what they do is they try to balance the rights of both the parties. For example, if the rights of the Messi has been infringed, then they will try to bring Messi on the same level. Or if, let's say, the rights of Barcelona have been infringed, they'll try to bring them on the same pedestal. So now there is a controversy. There is no settled law on this particular scenario. So there is no, let's say, up and down. Then they'll look into the, kind of losses both the parties would go through. Now look from the behalf of Football Club Barcelona. Barcelona will incur minimum of 700 million, and plus the incentives, plus the other kind of revenues they are generating. It will go up to 1,000 million also, because the kind of money involved in football. On the other hand, Barcelona is also paying Lionel Messi. They were ready to increase his salaries also. They were ready to give him more bonuses also if he decides to stay. There is one loyalty bonus in Messi's contract also. If he stays with Barcelona, he'll get the loyalty bonus as well. So on behalf, and on the other hand, Lionel Messi, the kind of, let's say, losses Lionel Messi is going to face. Is there any loss Lionel Messi is going to incur if he is not allowed to leave for free? He would still be earning. He would still have a contract. He would still be one of the two best players in the world, and he would still be at the particular level. Is there any kind of loss Lionel Messi is going to incur? The only, I think, the kind of infringement which is there is, let's say, his right to exercise that particular clause. So when the court has to balance the rights of both the parties, I think if it would have gone to the court, the CAS would not have allowed Lionel Messi to leave for free because of the unfortunate situation of COVID. And also La Liga as the association was not in favor of Lionel Messi leaving for free. Because obviously it is loss of revenue for La Liga as well. Because who would, let's say, if, for example, Messi moves to Barclays Premier League, or Messi moves to PSG, or Messi moves to, let's say, for example, Inter Milan, the kind of TRP he gets, or the kind of viewership Lionel Messi gets, would shift to another league. So the revenues attached to the viewership would also shift with Lionel Messi. Exactly. So they will not let Messi leave. So looking at all these scenarios, looking at all these criterias, and also Lionel Messi is a faithful servant, or let's say a faithful player of Football Club Barcelona. He did not want to drag Barcelona through court, and he did not want to create more controversy. So he decided to stay and then, let's say, decide his future again at the end of this season, 20 to 21. 2020 to 2021. So that is the, let's say, the primarily the issue of Lionel Messi, and that is how I think as lawyers you try to include certain clauses in a certain contract, in a certain sporting contracts, so that you can foresee the future and are also able to benefit your particular clients. So now I have so many, let's say, replies here. Let me just quickly go through. So Esteban is saying, as Lionel Messi loyal, Lionel Messi had to basically inform the club after season was over. In normal circumstances, the league would have gotten over on 10th, and however, on the and the league club could not extend this because of the service exactly. So both the parties could not have predicted it. So you cannot favor either of the parties in this particular scenario. It would not have been ethical and would have been against sports spirit if Lionel Messi left on 21st June. Messi stayed. Yeah, exactly. So Messi did not want to drag Barcelona. So that is why, and for ethics also, he stayed beyond June till the league would have ended. So Deepika is saying, could we apply doctrine of frustration for Messi? No, you cannot apply doctrine of frustration. Doctrine of frustration applies in the scenario where you are not able to fulfill your contract only. So in this particular scenario, just try to think whether they are able to fulfill their duties under the contract. They are able to fulfill their duties under the contract. There is just only, let's say, one particular there is one particular issue on one particular clause of the contract. So the spirit of the contract stays intact. Whatever the duties and the roles under the contract are there stays intact. Exactly, Ashutosh is correct. While considering the harm in particular case, Barca will face more harm than Messi. We will still get salary, but Barca will lose majority of the income. Exactly. So again, there are so many points to discuss. Also, we have, I think, surpassed the particular timings attached to this particular today's session. So what I asked you guys at the starting of this particular session was, see, I do it with my students also at IFIM with I am offering a particular elective. So this particular elective is very beautiful. So what we are doing is we are keeping everything practical. By practical means, I left it up to the students to frame or to sort of come up with the things they are going to study throughout the lecture. So what we have decided is, we are going to simulate IPL auctions, Indian Premier League auctions, and then we are going to simulate football transfer windows. Then we are going to simulate the drafting of players in basketball and other sports as well. So similarly, I want to give you guys a chance to to decide what you guys want to study tomorrow. So Istavan is saying, can sports contract have an act of God? So Istavan, in this particular scenario, think whether Corona is an act of God or not. According to me, it is not an act of God. It is just that, one guy decided in China to eat a bat, and then he ended up creating this particular virus. So is it God clause or act of God or not? It is not. I think it is man-made, and it is just an external intervention into the particular contract. So, yeah, give me a few, let's say, areas which you guys wanna study tomorrow. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and teach you guys change and transitional management in sports. Why, let's say, if every entity decides to invest or decides to buy a particular club, buy a particular player, or let's say a particular club, for example, football club Chelsea, they decide to change a particular manager, sack a particular manager. It is their hobby. Whoever follows Chelsea, they must know, every year they are changing their
Like a
manager.
manager. Yeah.
Why do they do that? Why the change is required? How the transitional management in sports works? So I wanted to cover that particular topic. If you guys want me to cover any other topic, I am more than happy to cover that particular topic also. And as the moderator mentioned at the start of this particular session, that there would be a time for Q&A also. So I would take questions if you guys have any questions regarding sports law, not just regarding Messi's case, but any other questions you guys have. Then I'm happy to take up also. And guys, so I want to do one thing here. Usually I don't do this, but I think like there are so many interested students, and I love let's say talking to new students and people and connecting with people. So let's do one thing. I'll share my personal contact. So this is my contact. You can drop me a text. I don't usually receive calls, but yeah, I always reply to the text messages. So you can drop me a WhatsApp, whatever you want to talk about. We can always talk about sports law. Let's say you need guidance regarding sports law, that also we can do. Or let's say you want certain suggestions, or let's say you want any recommendation letter from me, or you want to just connect with me. We can always do that. Follow me on LinkedIn, or let's say drop me a text. I'm more than happy to do that. So just say my number. Yeah, and this is the correct number. Just don't end up stalking me. But yeah, please, let's say schedule a call or messages. So I have few suggestions here. People are saying, so Sohil has mentioned that pandemic laws or concussion in cricket. Jan is saying something related to cricket, or like Kavya has said, doping, betting, broadcasting rights, performers' rights, more contractual terms. So Kavya, did you just enjoy the clauses and you did not enjoy Messi's case study? Any good cause which I can pursue in sports law? Okay, so Ashutosh has one question. I'll get back to your question. Sports and IPR correlation. So it is everywhere. I can cover sports and IPR very quickly. That is not a problem. Medical and IPR laws apply to sports law. So coming to the question of Ashutosh, which good course which I can pursue in sports law. So, there are now courses coming up across the world, but there are very less good universities, which are offering very good courses. So one is ISDE, to which university I went to. ISDE is Spain, and my course was in collaboration with Football Club Barcelona. So that's why you understand, I was talking so much about Football Club Barcelona. So my particular course was sports management and legal skills. It was a combination of management and law, but they offer international sports law, economics, and stuff like that. And then there is one more very good university, Nottingham Trent. It is in UK. You can always go to that particular university. And if you are looking for a course in sports law in India, then undergraduation courses are offered by IFIM Law School, because now I have joined and they have a faculty member who can offer that particular course. Other than that, there is Opijindra Global University. There is Professor Sean Starr and Subrajit Chanda. He is a fantastic, the faculty member at Opijindra. Professor Sean Starr, he has also represented IPL in the past. So you can always reach out to him, or Subrajit Chanda. He is also the founder of Global Sports Policy Review. So you can reach out to him also. He's very helpful and also very good. Yeah, Lester Demond, yeah, it is also pretty good. So Esteban, you are asking for material. So let's do one thing. Tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll share few readings with you guys, which you guys can refer all the time, so that in future, let's say if you have to understand anything and uh, get a hold of any area of sports law, you can do so. Or you can always contact me, and I'll always share that with you guys. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. So Jihan is asking a question: Has sports law not developed? So it is a misconception that sports law has evolved from Europe or it has evolved from other countries. It initially it was there in India. Then so you can say there was a demise and a rise of sports law in India. So earlier it was there in India. Then there was sort of a demise of sports law, and then suddenly after 2008, 9, 10, then it again started to rise, and now it is on the rise. It is a niche field. There are not many lawyers in India practicing sports law, but it is growing gradually. So yeah, that is the scenario related to sports law. Some relevant case laws, yeah, definitely. So I'll share the material. So what, yeah, so depending upon your suggestions, I'll try to frame a particular problem for tomorrow. So I studied with his day, but then the pandemic hit, everything went online, and also I wanted to pursue academics in India. So very soon I'll be teaching in Spain as well, but I am teaching in India as well. So I am an assistant in here. I'm trying to, let's say, I'm into institution building. So my job is to basically develop institutes or let's say education universities. For example, I was instrumental in setting up National University Sonipat. Afterwards, I moved on and I became a full-time faculty member at OP Jindal, and now I'm here at very beautiful law school called IFIM. So that is why basically I wanted to pursue academics in India. So you guys to, let's say, just waste your time and money. So I just, yeah. So I'm getting so many yeses. So I am assuming that I was able to, let's say, at least meet the bare minimum criteria. Okay, thank you so much, guys. So we'll meet tomorrow. And if you guys have any questions, meanwhile, between today and tomorrow, you can just drop your queries to me over WhatsApp. I'll be happy to talk to you and reply. I'm always free for sports law. Thank you so much. Over to you, moderators.
Thank you so for being here. And on behalf of entire family of Amikus Qriae, I'm thanking you for sparing your valuable time for enlightening our students and our participants. And I hope that they enjoyed this session and will enjoy the tomorrow's session as well. And thank you very much. Okay, now all the participants can leave the meeting.